Hi, and welcome again to the Lady channel. I'm your host, Dr. Hempel, and today we're going to be talking about what are the different types of English language learners you will have in your classroom. And as I've promised before, on this channel, I want to share with you strategies and tips and resources that you can use in your classroom. But I think it's really important. I wanted to touch on the basics first as to what English language learners look like, because not all English language learners that come into your room are going to be the same. They all are different depending on so many different factors that I'm going to touch upon really quick in this video. I also wanted to talk about with you, as well as in the future and subsequent videos, more into detail in these different factors. Please remember to subscribe, to like this video, and to comment below any specific questions that you have that I'm not touching upon topics. I'm really open to your suggestions, so I want to make sure that I just put that out there.
So when we talk about what that English language learners look different and they're not all the same, this is more in detail. This graphic really demonstrates what I was referring to. Different researchers will demonstrate the stages of learning a second language a little differently. They may use different terminology, but roughly this is a gist of this is using the same verbiage. It's just presented in a different way. And I'm using this graphic because it's easy to understand and can be applied to virtually any language, any student coming in that's learning a target language. And for the purpose of this video, as I mentioned before, I'm going to be using English as an example because it's the context in which I work and I'm experiencing as a citizen of the United States. However, this can be used with any language. So let's hop right to it. So we have 5 stages of learning a second language. The first stage is pre-production. Second stage is early pre-production. The third is speech emergence. Following that is intermediate fluency. And last but not least, advanced fluency. So your pre-production is going to be those students who come in that are nonverbal. They're going to point to things. They may say yes a lot or nod their heads. They may come with some understanding of the target language, but they can't quite express that yet. So sometimes people will confuse that for, oh, well, they're not able to show me what they're able to do. Well, I'm going to get into that in other videos. I'm going to show you how you can get students at the pre-production level to be able to participate in your classroom. The second stage is the early pre-production, and that's 6 months to a year of exposure of the language. They have limited comprehension, but they are able to give 1 or 2 word responses. They're able to engage a little bit more, and they're taking in the social aspect of language, which is also something I'll be touching upon in the future, because there's a big difference between social and academic language, which cannot be confused. The third level is speech emergence, and those are your intermediate, beginning pre-intermediate students. They've had 1 to 3 years experience with the target language. They're able to produce with simple sentences. They have good comprehension. At this point, they're understanding a lot more independently. Still, they need scaffolds. They need a lot of rich print in the classroom and help from the teacher and their support to be able to participate in a classroom. And then following that, you have the intermediate fluency stage. Those students are considered beyond that speech emergent level, where they have excellent comprehension. They make few grammatical errors. Still, depending on the age of the child, if they're older, they may still have a stronger accent, but their comprehension is on point, as well as their social and their academic comprehension. And last but not least, advanced fluency, 5 to 7 years of exposure to the language. This is where our goal, where we want students to be. But please be aware that although we're saying 5 to 7 years, that's assuming that the student has been exposed to best practices in learning a language. They're in a rich environment. They've had opportunities to practice the language in different contexts. But if you have a student who is not engaged, and they're not, the factors that I'm going to be talking about after this, the 7 factors that influence whether a student, how fast a student is able to acquire a second language, if those areas are a factor, it could take longer than 5 to 7 years. So that's something that's really, really important to understand, is that it varies from child to child based on the factors that I'm about to explain to you and share with you, as well as how rich in print and how engaging their experience is going to be in the classroom.
So that's basically a very quick overview as to the different types of language learners. Now, the factors that impede, that will affect, not impede, but affect how fast, how quick, and how well a student will be able to acquire language is based on 7 key factors that I'm going to share. I want you to be aware that there are more factors, but these are just the common factors that are mentioned across research. And I also want to mention one more thing. I know that you've heard me use English as an example, as the target language. I only use that because that's the context in which I live. Since I live in the United States, and as I've worked as a teacher, my goal has been to help my language learners to learn English. But in this context, I'll be using the word ELL, English language learner, but this can be applied to French language learners, Spanish language learners, FLL, SLL. But just for the sake of these videos, I'll be referring to students, to these type of students, as English language learners. But these strategies can be applied to others. You may have noticed that the lighting looks really different, and I'm in a different part of my office. I just wanted to mention that what happened was I had shot all of this entire video, and I realized when I uploaded the video, it didn't make sense. The slides had completely changed order, so I had to reshoot part of this video. So forgive me for the difference in quality of this video and the lighting, but it is what it is. I know you guys will understand. But really nice and quick, the 7 factors that I wanted to talk about starts with age. The age of a child is going to be really important. Remember that slide that you saw a couple of minutes ago with the 5 to 7 years of acquiring a language. For example, if you're going to look at a child who is 6 or 7 versus a child, an adult who's 24 or 25. Although we do know in experience that children acquire language faster because they don't have any preconceived schemata of language. They just take it in. But in my research that I did during my dissertation, it was really fascinating. I came across, and I can't remember the researcher. As soon as I'll find it, I'll post it I'll post it below so you can refer to it. There's emerging research showing that those who have experience, who have a foundation for language, who are older, and because they have more sophisticated lexicon and syntax and sentence structure, are able to acquire a language in such a different way than a child who would be learning a language. What I never thought about. I always thought about, children, they acquire it so much faster and easier. Second item is personality. If you're going to look at a student who is withdrawn, who are antisocial, who are defiant, versus a child who's outgoing and is a go-getter and wants to learn the target language, they're going to have an easier time acquiring the language. I think about, I know lots of people in my experience that I've encountered with that, they're learning Spanish, for example, and they can speak it so well and so fluently, and they've traveled to other countries and have studied abroad, and they're fearless, and they're not afraid of making mistakes. Those are the type of people that will acquire the target language faster. Your motivation is really key. If you're here, for example, in the United States, you're new here, and you're striving to get a better job, or you are trying to pursue an education, graduate level work, or what have you, you're going to be motivated to learn the language because you know that there's going to be financial reasons, social reasons why you're going to want to understand the language and survive in your new context. Experiences, as I touched upon before, the type of experiences that if you have a student who immerses himself in different cultural experiences. When I was a dual language teacher, I had students during their summer would go to missions trips to different Spanish-speaking countries. So they're at an added advantage. They're really immersing themselves and exposing themselves to different experiences to be able to learn a native language. The fifth area is native language, the distance between your first language and your target language. What do I mean by this? For example, my parents, their native language is Spanish. Spanish is a syllabic language. It uses the same alphabet system that we use in English. So when my parents strived to learn English, it was a lot easier for them than compared to, for example, someone who speaks Chinese, where their language is a character-based language. So I implore you as teachers, if you have students who speak another language, research it, find out what their language looks like, because if it's an alphabetic system, it's probably going to be a lot easier for them to transfer what they know in their first language to the target language. Their general aptitude, this is the sixth area, their general aptitude, their cognitive abilities will also be a huge factor as how fast and how efficiently they will learn the target language. So if a student has certain learning disabilities, it may be difficult. It doesn't mean it's not possible. With specific strategies and resources, they'll be able to attain the language. And last but not least, the seventh area, which is I find so important, and I don't think that there's enough research out there on this area, is the instruction. What does the instruction look like in the classroom that this student who is learning the target language is being exposed to? If they're in a classroom where there are rich experiences, opportunities for them to practice the language, if the teacher is providing support, scaffolds for them to be able to use the language, like sentence stems, paragraph frames, and I'll be talking about that. That's an example of some of the strategies that I'll be sharing with you. When you provide students with these types of strategies, they're going to be able to make connections to what they're hearing, what they're seeing, what they're coming across day by day, and it will allow them to acquire the language faster. So that's quick and dirty. If there's any specific area of those 7 areas that you want to hear more about, please comment below. I love to get feedback because it helps me help you in a more effective manner. Thank you so much for stopping by again. I truly appreciate it. Remember, my videos come out once a week, every Wednesday. So please like, subscribe, and comment below, and I'll be reading your comments and incorporating those in my videos. And my husband decided to pop in, so these videos are very informal. So yes, he's joining me on this endeavor. All right, like and subscribe. Bye.